Okay. All right. So I wanted to start with going over, um, okay, I thought I shared this screen. I didn't. There we go. About our combined brain biomarker project. I believe there's already 7 or 8 of us who have already donated blood. That's what we were talking to Jamie about. Um, and
Oh, okay.
Sabrina
Yeah.
is going to talk exactly what the biomarker project is and what the next 3 collection dates are and where they are, the locations for it.
Okay. Yeah. So I guess just for those who are just coming in, biomarkers are basically some way for you to know how severe like a kiddo is, or whether a treatment is working or not. So, like an example of a biomarker would be like if you went to your doctor and drew blood and they told you what your sodium level was. So there's a normal range, and and they can monitor it when it's low. They want to see if they give you a treatment and it gets better. So that's what a biomarker is, and it could be in many different forms. It could just be a survey or something like that. But in this case, it's a blood sample. And the what happens is that, and Rosie already did this with Charlie, and our kids did this. They take a blood sample in a certain method and spin it down, and then they send it off to what's called a proteomics company, which is a company that can detect small proteins. Because you can't just send it to a normal lab. This is like you have to detect really small proteins. And PSD95 which is the protein that's made by the DLG4 gene, is can be detected in the bloodstream. But we don't know. We've never. I don't think there's been a large enough study to show what the levels are in the bloodstream and what's normal, what isn't normal. And so this biomarker project is to detect that. What you would do is you would get a sample from an affected child, and then we'd have control subjects as well, which are they've already done either, I think it was sibling or parent controls. So when Combined Brain is a company that works with many rare disease organizations to move rare disease research forward. They have a biorepository to store blood samples, skin samples. Uh, they create stem cells and store them for us and things like that. And they have a biomarker project that our foundation is involved with. We've had many patients do blood samples and collections, and I'd have to say, I think they told us like in 6 months to next year, we'll know the results of those, and hopefully we can combine them with our other projects to develop biomarkers for our gene, which will be really useful when clinical trials start happening for gene therapy. Something that's required by the FDA to even go forward with a clinical trial. The Combined Brain is working with many disease organizations, and the ones that are listed above are other rare diseases or rare genetic diseases that are having their conferences. And Combined Brain is having a little site with a couple of phlebotomists there that are very well trained in pediatric blood draws, and they're fantastic with distracting your children and doing things like that to get a blood sample. The next 3 that are coming up, there's one in Orlando, one in Westminster, and one in Jacksonville. And then I think everyone can see the further ones coming up. Let me see.
Yeah, there's
I think, yeah. So I think Payal said that there was one potentially coming up in Washington that might be close. I don't know about Utah. What's the closest for you guys? But this would be a good chance to get your blood drawn, added to that project, as well as added to the biorepositories for the researchers to study your specific child's information. So it's a really fantastic way to do this. And we've got many, I don't know how many people we have in now, but many DLG4 patients have already done this.
Yep. Okay. And then I wanted to already thank everybody that has sent in photos and a little short story. If you haven't done so, I can send you this link. It's also on our Facebook group, but that allows us to have this page on our website, and also it allows researchers to actually put a face behind the name. So we have most everybody that has sent in photos and a short story up on the website. So if you would like to do that, we would love a picture. I'll send you the link. And I also wanted to talk about our fundraising and how that's going. Believe it or not, our fundraising for, there we go. Gene therapy is going really well. I want to shout out to the Crane family and also to Liliana, who have raised a lot of money. We have already raised $160,000 towards gene therapy at Dr. Motri here in the US, which is amazing. We only have that much more to go. Every single dollar that's donated into our foundation is going towards gene therapy. And Dr. Motri is giving us our first update in the next month, basically in 2 weeks, which we're going to post also on the Facebook group. So if you guys want to fundraise for this, we're the only ones that are doing it here in the US, because we feel like the path to the FDA is easier if it's a US lab. So all you have to do is click I want to fundraise for this and start it. We're going to have a bourbon raffle coming up soon, and so when we post that, if you guys could share that would be great. Where Sabrina and I are working on corporate sponsors as well, so if you want to just forward the link, I'm happy to send that as well. So thank you to Liliana and Kinley for getting us started as well. Okay, and then I also wanted to point out we have a bonfire store, you guys. So if you want to order a shirt or a mug or want to share that, and if you have a creative gene in you and want to create shirts, I'm happy to upload that to our store as well. So you can find the store link on the website. And if anybody wants a coffee mug or a shirt, please feel free to order one. And now I'm going to hand it over to Caitlin, who's going to tell us of why we have so many registries. I know we have multiple. We have Simons, we have RareX, and we have Ciitizen, and all three of them are different. Do you want me to share screen, Caitlin? Continue sharing screen as well?
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay. So
if you have the slide deck, yep.
I do have it pulled up. Let me just stop on this one, and I'll share the slide deck. There we go.
Perfect. Awesome. So nice to see so many faces, and it's amazing to hear all of the awesome work your community is doing. So my name is Caitlin. I work for RareX. I work in community engagement, and this is an introduction to your DLG4 data collection program. Next slide, please. So what is RareX? RareX is a program of global genes that was created to accelerate rare disease research, treatments, and by removing barriers for data collection and sharing. It's a platform to collect, connect, and share your data, and it is not a replacement for any current research or clinician-sponsored patient registry. If anything, it is just an added bonus. As much research and data that you can collect is best. Next slide. So why did your leaders choose RareX? It's a global data collection program. So right now we only offer it in English, but by the end of this year, we will have 2 new translations coming in. But as far as any of the governance and data collected globally, it is all handled by RareX. All the governance, it's approved through IRBs. Any global researchers can have access to your data as well. It is patient owned and managed, so you have the ability to control how much data you input, who has access to it, who you want it shared with, and if you choose to pull your data out, you can do so at any time. It's of no cost to yourselves or your organization and no cost to researchers. All of our surveys are structuredized and standardized in the format that all researchers are looking to do the most with your data. We handle all the governance, and we take all of the data from the current data collection program and transfer it to our federated data access platform that is hosted on Terra. And all of the data that is there is all de-identified data. And we also have the ability to connect to existing data sources. So you're collecting data other places, we'll be able to connect to those existing data sources as well. Next slide. So what is the benefit to you as parents, caregivers, patients, families? It collects data on all systems of the body to allow a better understanding of your disease. You can get a summary data returned to your community so you can compare your symptoms to others with the same disease. There's the chance to participate in clinical trials and the ability to update and change any symptoms at any time. This is not a one and done data collection. We would love for you to come back and update your information as often as possible. We can reach more researchers worldwide, and we have the ability to manage who uses your data. So this is how the data collection program works. Your disease will be right here in the middle, and then heading down, you will go into the community pages. I will show you your community page in a moment. But then once you go through your community page, you will consent, say your data sharing preferences, complete all your general information, and complete the first survey, which is the health and development, also known as the head to toe survey. It will ask any question head to toe, and for every yes or unsure answer, it will then trigger level 2 questions in surveys. There's also a quality of life survey that is available to everyone. So once you've completed all of your surveys, then it's passed over to the researchers. So our team cleans up the data, makes sure that there's no duplicates for anyone, and then sends it to our federated data platform where any researcher has access. They will have to fill out a form to make sure that they're have the best intentions when going into the data. But anyone from citizen scientists to data scientists to international researchers, they all have access to your data. So what do you need to get started? You just need an email address and to create your password. As far as approved browsers, we highly encourage you to use Google Chrome or Apple Safari just for the best user experience. If you're an international, a lot of times Internet Explorer and Mozilla is the most common browser. It still will work. Sometimes the experience might not be the best. So you can always reach out to our team and we can kind of help you troubleshoot through that. But Google Chrome and Apple Safari are the highly encouraged browsers to use. You don't need a lot of time to fill this out. You can come back at any time. It auto saves all of your answers. So you can fill out at any time. So how the data collection model works is you're going to log in and sign up. You'll go through the full consent and data sharing preferences. So you will have the ability to determine who you want your data shared with. Once you get through that, you'll start filling out your demographics, which is where you will select your disease in the dropdown, as well as say what your role is. Are you a patient? Are you a caregiver? Are you both a patient and caregiver? You are able to be both. You are able to fill out surveys as a caregiver as well. Then you will move to your head to toe survey. That will then trigger your additional surveys. And then you have the option to fill out the quality of life as well. Here is your DLG4 community page. I can put the link in the chat. This is kind of the front door into your data collection program. This is specific just to your organization. So you'll see the big red button here that says start your journey. That's where you will click to start, where you will submit your email, and then you can start logging in. At the bottom of your community page, there's a frequently asked questions section that pretty much will answer any question you might have. But if you do have additional questions, there is an email at the bottom that you can send any email to, and we have a whole help desk that will be able to help you. And this community page is translated in the following surveys listed to the left. So once you click the Get Started, you will put in your email. and you will click submit. You will then receive an account creation email to then create your password. If you don't receive this within a few minutes, check your spam or your junk folder, because sometimes it will end up there, but it shouldn't take longer than like 5 minutes to receive your account creation email. Once you have done that, you will then be requesting your access. So you'll fill out, your name, email, phone number, how old you are, if you are at least over 18, if you're in the United States. This is important because it will kind of trigger what type of consent you are receiving. If you're in the United States, there's one consent. If you are outside, there is another. And then this is where you will check who you are that's filling it out. So if you are the caregiver, you will select the caregiver, and then later you'll be able to add your patients as well. So creating your password, it will need you to send a verification code to your email. So once you've received that, you can just enter the code, and you can change your password to anything you want it to be. Once again, if you don't receive the verification code, just check your spam or junk folder. Depending on your email settings, it sometimes will end up there. And the multi-factor login is only just for the first login. Once you have fully gone through everything, you will just need to put your email and password. So once you've gone through the two-step verification, you can log into the DCP. The DCP is the acronym for the Data Collection Program. So you'll enter your email, your password, and then click sign in. If you're interested in reading our privacy policy and terms of use, they are both linked at the bottom, and you can access them at any time. So when you first log in, you will see the terms of use. This is the Matrix terms of use. Matrix is the technology platform that we host the data collection program on. It just outlines how the data is being collected and basically who has access internally to this. Once you have kind of read through that and agree to it, you can click the accept button at the bottom. Once you've filled out the terms of use, you will go through an 8-page informed consent. There's not a lot of interactive questions on here that you have to fill out, but if you want to learn more about kind of each question that's outlined in this consent, you can just click the learn more for more detailed answer. This is a really important section of the informed consent. We really like to know why you're participating in the data collection program. So if you've stated that you have a rare disease or you're a patient or caregiver, you can check all that apply. You can check all of them, just one, whatever applies to you. And then this is really important too. The RareX may contact me with follow-up research surveys and invitations. So sometimes we're contacted by researchers that are looking to do clinical trials and anything like that. If you'd like us to contact you on their behalf, you would select yes. And that is the same for the second question there as well. So moving through the informed consent, you are filling it out as yourself, but then once you get through to add your patient, you will be adding your child's name. Just always keep an eye out for if it's your name or your child's name. After the informed consent is complete, you will move into the demographics and the general information. So this will just ask like address, phone number, all of that. And it's collected both for the caregiver and the patient. So you'll fill all of this out at first as a caregiver, unless you are a patient. Then once you add a patient, you will then fill it out for the patient as well. It seems a bit redundant, but it's how we're able to kind of connect the two together. So it asks different demographics, ethnicity. It will ask about household income and health care coverage. And then lastly, the last question down at the bottom is arguably the most important in this section, is where you're going to select your disease in the drop down. And you are able to select multiple if you do have multiple rare diseases as well. Once that's finished, you will enter the data sharing preference agreement. So this is where you will say where you want your data, who you want it shared with. We highly recommend selecting the general research. That means it's open to really anyone that comes in. If you would prefer for it to just be available to health or like biomedical research, there's that option. Next slide. There's also, if you just want it research solely for non-commercial purposes, or if researchers that only have an IRB, you can select that there. And this can be updated at any time. So if at first you aren't quite sure who you want it shared with, just select what you're most comfortable with now, and you can always come back and change it at any time. This is a very, very important for your community because it sounds like you guys are all collecting bio samples. So this is great. So if you know if any have been collected, say you would say yes, and you can just say where it's been collected because we will have the potential to connect it back to your data. And then if you're also interested in collecting bio samples, you can select yes here for when that option becomes available with RareX. Same with medical records. If you're interested in having your medical records connected to your data on RareX, you would select yes. And then if you know if you're participating in any other studies or data collection, which your community is, you would select yes. And then there will be a text box that you can fill in. If you would like your contact information shared with your community, it's just your first name, last name, and email only. You can select yes. And then if you would like your data available to your leaders on their data dashboard, it will just show survey completion and demographics where they're located. You can select yes. You don't have to select this. It's entirely up to you and how much data you want shared with back to your community. So now that you've gone through all of that, you will be in your caregiver dashboard. Over to the left-hand side, you can see that Brittany is a caregiver with the caregiver underneath her name. To add a patient, you will just click add a patient, and then it will take you through everything you just went through as a caregiver. So the full informed consent, general information, demographics, everything, you will see that there. Up in the left-hand corner, you can see that Macy is now the patient. So you are Marilyn is the caregiver, Macy is the patient. So whoever's dashboard you're viewing will be next to the viewing category. So this is what your dashboard will look like when you finish going through your informed consent. The health and development survey is what you will want to fill out first. That's the head to toe. It says about 15 to 20 minutes to fill out. That's a very generous time. It goes a lot faster than that. And to get started, you will just click over on the right and click start. Here's an example of some of the questions that are asked in the health and development survey. Have you ever had issues with head, face, and neck? If you click yes or unsure, that will then trigger your level 2 questions. If it's no, it's no, and that won't trigger any head, face, or neck additional questions. This is really important too. Have you ever had genetic testing done? Yes, there's a whole section under documents for being able to upload your genetic reports, and we have a curation team that is able to curate your tests. If you have, it's okay, you can go to the next one. So this is an example of how to upload your genetic report. So over on the left-hand side, when you first log in, you will be in the top section, the dashboard. But if you go to documents, you're able to upload PDF, Word document. There's really not a lot of limits on what you can upload. You need to tag it though. So you'll go to the select a tag and you'll see the genetic test there. Select that and click save. And then once it's uploaded, you should see the document there. So once you've filled out your health and development head to toe survey, level 2 surveys will be triggered and you will see those on your dashboard. It really kind of just depends on how many how many yes and unsure answers you might have 5 surveys, you might have 20 surveys. It's entirely how you fill out your head to toe survey. So these are more of a deep dive into what was asked in the head to toe. So here's a couple examples of like behavior survey, brain and nervous system, digestive, ears and hearing survey. There, and then there is free text down at the bottom, which I think there's an example of coming up. But so here it goes just more in depth of, do you see this symptom? When did it first appear? What was it diagnosed at? So it kind of goes step by step through that. So as you're answering the level 2 surveys down at the bottom, there is a free text option for you to give additional information. We would love for you to fill this out, but please try to not include the patient's name or any like identifiable information when filling this section out. Once you've completed surveys, you can go up to the top and click on the completed tab, and you can view all the surveys you have completed. You are able to edit them at any time. So you can just click on the ellipsis to the right and you can view, you can email it if you want to take it into doctor's offices, use it to advocate for yourself or for your child. You can do so there as well as edit it at any time. And that includes the informed consent as well. And same with the data sharing. So if you have any questions or technical issues, please feel free to reach out to us. We are happy to help. We just ask that when you email us about any questions or technical issues, that you do also include the info at DLG4 Research Fund, just so they're kind of aware of what questions your community is having. And yeah, so thank you so much. Any questions I can answer?
I did have one quick question. Mm-hmm. I think sometimes in our community, we've had a couple of kids that have what we are calling like the twins. Like there was a kid that would have the same genetic, the same marker as my son, but, we don't know who it is. He's probably not in part of the Facebook group, things like that. If that person was involved in Rare X, would you be able to connect us and so forth? Like, would you be able to provide details to
yeah, that's a great question. That's also a very like a unique situation too. As of right now, I don't think so, but let me double check and I will get the answer back to your group's leaders. I just don't want to say yes. And if
it was just something that, again, I think a lot of times people are like, oh, because there's a kind of a spectrum of like different symptoms for different kids based on where the gene has the issue. And it was just looking and saying, if we kind of would know, like, guess what? Somebody in, another country has this, and they just didn't know that we had this Facebook community kind of started off that way. One other question too is, at the time of diagnosis, I know you said researchers and all of that. And again, I was kind of, Charlie was diagnosed a couple of years ago. So when we first got diagnosed, it was like there was no information on it. I'm just wondering, would like a geneticist who's giving a diagnosis to a family be able to link into this Rare X and provide some information to somebody at the point of diagnosis?
Yes, that's a feature we're kind of working through and testing through right now. And hopefully we'll be able to have that kind of up and running in the next probably 6 months. We're kind of in a pilot phase of that right now, because
great.
Clinician reported data is just as reported as patient reported data. So,
okay.
I have a question, and I'm sure it's the same question as pretty much everybody, is why are there so many data collection platforms? And some of these surveys are so repeated. And we're asking the community to fill out Rare X, and then we're asking them to fill out Simon Searchlight. And that just seems like it's pretty much the same surveys, and it's the same Vanderbilt, like, survey type questions that I'm filling out over and over and over again. So I know that because this is recorded and everybody really wants to know why we have to fill out so many surveys, that this one would be a good question.
Yeah, it's an amazing question. And it is, collecting data and collecting as much data as possible for your specific disease really is key. I mean, you have, I think it's 3 data collection programs, Rare X being one of them, that, you have different researchers accessing different data collection. So getting your research out there to as many or getting your data out there to as many researchers as possible really is so important, and being able to connect those data sources and being able to connect, the biosamples that you're collecting with one data collection program to the other, just to have all of your data together as much as possible really is important.
Caitlin, can you give us examples of how are you different from Ciitizen, and what does Ciitizen do versus what does RareX do?
Yeah, so I can't really speak to what Ciitizen is doing, but what makes RareX a little bit different is just a lot of the surveys that are built out in specific domains. So there's the potential for your diseases to come to us and build out specific domains around your specific disease. And it also benefits the other diseases that have the same types of symptoms. What else makes RareX different is it's patient owned. So you control your data, you control who has access to your data. We don't put up really any barriers and kind of control what researchers can come to us. It's open to all.
Yep, and I can speak a little bit to Ciitizen. Ciitizen is just a platform where all of your medical records are collected, so there are not any surveys or questions. So it's a great tool for everybody to do Ciitizen, because if you're visiting 20 different doctors and there's summary charts for all 20 different doctors, Ciitizen will get access to all of those 20 different doctors and have the summary of all those doctors in one place for you to own. So you can print, like half the time when I'm walking out the door for my neurologist, I didn't even know that he put in my chart that he saw Raina for such and such issue, and this is what he saw that day. But Ciitizen gathers that, and it's in a summary and in my folder. So it took me, I want to say, because I decided I wanted to do all my level 1 and level 2 surveys with RareX in one day. It took me about 45 minutes to finish RareX from head to toe, basically all the consents, all the level 1 surveys, all the level 2 surveys. And it took me about 25 minutes to do Ciitizen. So, and Simon's, it took a little bit longer. It took me a couple of days to do Simon's. But I think it's important for all of us to do all three, just because I believe RareX is having all these things called the Open Data Science Challenge, which encourages different researchers. The more participants we have in RareX, the more likely a researcher is going to pick us up. And eventually, at least Sabrina and I know Dr. Motri is going to ask us for this data collection when he is ready for that next step next year. So we're just doing all the work right now so that when he asks us, we're ready. Because I know that this is a crucial part of what we're going to need when our gene goes to clinical trials. Is there anything else, Sabrina, you wanted to add?
Oh, yeah. I guess I had, yeah. So I filled out all of them as well. And I just, every time a new one hits me, I just spend a few hours just doing it. The main thing is there, it's true. We're such a new gene. We really need to get our name out there as much as possible with every researcher, every clinician. Otherwise, there's a lot of competition to get through the FDA to get these clinical trials going. So we want to bubble up to the top. So getting our data into the RareX platform gives us, if we get a certain number of people in, we can start doing their data science challenge, which they have researchers just come in from all over the US, all over the world, and they're going to see like who has the most interesting disorder. They're gonna be like, I want to research that. And so we want to be there and have them have access to that. We want them to, get this access, write papers for us. And same with all the platforms. And I feel like RareX has a little bit of a difference in terms of there's a lot more patient control of the data. And I really appreciate that. They make it so seamless for us to get this stuff to researchers, which for me is really important. And maybe Caitlin can answer this question about how many patients do we need before we can do the data science challenge, and when's the next one coming?
The next challenge will be starting next year in 2024. I think it should be starting in May of 2024. Right now, there really is not like a patient. You don't have to have a certain like threshold of patients in the data collection program. It's all based off of domain. So like right now, we just did a bunch on pediatric neurodevelopmental. So I'm not sure what next year's is going to be. They're going to be announcing it at the Week in Rare, the Global Genes event. So if you're interested to learn more about that, I highly recommend attending that event. And we will be putting out a lot and sharing with your community as well as to what the next kind of domain that's going to be coming to that challenge. But yes, get as many people and participants in as possible to be able to get more eyes on your disease.
Thank you.
Thank you, Caitlin. We're going to chat internally amongst us for a little bit now, but we really thank you for coming in and talking to us about this. We really appreciate your time, and I'm sure we'll be spreading the word and getting everybody to do this. And it's having a rare kiddo is hard, but I feel like getting all our data into these platforms is equally important, just so that we get the research going. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me and have a good night. Thank you.
I'm going to stop recording as well.